Sometimes it feels like Jasmine Crockett is a plant. It's the gift that just keeps giving. People ask me why I keep making these videos about Jasmine, and I'll tell you why as we get into this.
Jasmine Crockett. She surged to the forefront of the Trump resistance with aggressive and offensive language. Now that liberal Congresswoman, Ms. Crockett, is contending with a report that she's a terrible boss who terrorizes her own employees. Sources tell the New York Post that Crockett screams at her staff, is never in the office, freaks out over the most random things.
Who does this sound like? This sounds a lot like the stories or the leaks that came out from staffers of Kamala Harris. And this wasn't just happening when she was vice president. This was when she was a senator. This was when she was DA. And these are people that have constantly come out and said the same things. People ask me why I make these videos about Jasmine Crockett and about Kamala. And I try not to make these videos about Black women because you always get attacked, right? You always get attacked because, oh, you don't know what it's like to be a Black woman and this, that, and the other. But the reason why I make these videos is because I know some incredible Black women who are highly accomplished who are not like this. I have close friends, my sister, I have nieces, I have goddaughters who are really well accomplished, and they're solid people. They may have different political views than me, but they work hard. And it just feels like it undermines the cause of Black women, if I'm allowed to say that as a Black man, when you have these women who clearly don't know how to treat their staff. They're not good leaders. They're not hardworking. They're not prepared. And I'm not saying this. This is what their staffers are saying. And Jasmine and Kamala Harris are two examples of that. So I'm not mad at them because they're both highly accomplished individuals in the sense that they've been able to pursue careers and make it to the Senate in the case of Kamala Harris, and vice president. And as Jasmine Crockett, she's a congresswoman. Like, much props to you. If you were my daughter or my niece, I'd be super proud of that. But you need to represent better. That's all I'm saying.
Focused almost exclusively on being an influencer and has overall a toxic staff environment. On one occasion, she even reduced an aide to tears. One source summed it up as, quote, all diva, no wow. That's reportedly behind closed doors. This is in public.
Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of okay, we know that. Kind of like, the orange orangutan, the Timu Hitler.
They understand that we have a Timu Hitler in the White House right now that thinks that he is going to become the dictator of the United States.
We are going to be in your face.
One of the things that I've noticed with her, I don't play poker, but they do talk about tells. So these are mannerisms or behaviors that people have that, you can tell if they have a good hand or a bad hand. One of the things that I've noticed with Jasmine is when I perceive that when she's not confident or sure about what she's doing, she kind of reverts into the sassy Black girl thing with the honey and I don't know her, but I will say I lived in Texas for a while, right? And I grew up with females like this. Even in New York, I grew up with females like AOC. And to me, the avatar or prototype is they're smart. They are often insecure, may be pretty, may not be pretty, but they're insecure and they find these things or these lanes to get into that will feed their ego and make them feel more secure. And then they just play into it. I'm not saying that there's no substance behind it, but a lot of the times I just feel like the insecurity. So I would imagine as these women get older and more mature and more comfortable in their skin, which can take a while. I didn't really feel comfortable in my skin until I got into my late 40s and early 50s. And when you get into that place, you kind of realize that, A, not everybody's going to like you. And not everybody should or could like you because we all have different worldviews. B, those people that don't like you are just not going to like you regardless. And you also realize as you get older, you're you. You should always be looking to be a better version of you, but you don't aim to please other people in everything that you do. I think AOC and Jasmine Crockett and even Kamala Harris, even as an older woman, they come across as a little bit insecure. And her attacks, I think, and I've said it before in one of my other videos, what Jasmine Crockett realized was when she did that attack on Marjorie Taylor Greene and called her a bleach blonde, bad built, whatever, she blew up. I think that's what put her on the map. And she wants to keep feeding that. And so that's where you see her slip between this polished, articulate individual that is probably what got her into Congress and got her into the, I think she was something in the Texas state government. I think that's what got her there. But then once you get into that realm, you're amongst other well-accomplished attorneys and solicitors and lawyers, and so that's not gonna cut it anymore. So you have to find something, your unique selling point amongst those people. And I think her thing is the sassy black girl thing.
We are gonna be on your. We will not allow a bully to punch us in our face. We are not only gonna punch you back, but we are gonna knock you out.
Well, Ben, if that's what she's displaying publicly, my goodness, what is happening behind closed doors?
Yeah, look, the Democratic Party's got a problem because they've basically taken a bunch of social media influencers that are really loud and know how to get like TikTok views and said, be a congressperson. We'll bring you up here. And they don't legislate. She's not representing the people of her district. She's never there and working with them. And again, all of these accusations are coming from her staff. People that worked for her, and they say she's never in the office. She's always hanging out in her apartment. She only wants to be on TV. She only wants to be viral. She only wants to call the.
You could make the argument that these are people that used to work for her. So maybe they're salty because they got fired. But where there's smoke, there is fire. And these are consistent allegations against her. And they are just allegations, but they're consistent and they do line up with the actions and behaviors that you see from her.
The president of POS. And this is, again, the Democratic Party. Look, I think they've got a big problem because now you got Marxists, socialists, and communists and TikTokers like her who are out there saying, I'm a congresswoman, even though I don't represent or do anything for my constituents. It's serious people should be in Washington. You should be working for the people, not trying to get views on clickbait like she does every day. So good luck to the Democratic Party. You've created this, you've emboldened it, and now this is what you've got. And you wonder why her approval rating's at like 9%.
And now her own are turning on her.
Are you a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes staffers?
Oh my goodness. Listen, I know that I have arrived, honey.
See, that's the tell. And the batting of the eyelids and the going into cultural conversations or, invoking Beyonce. Why are all these celebrities trying to align themselves with, why are all these politicians trying to align themselves with these celebrities? Right? Like this whole Beyonce worship of a lot of the black leaders, they do that because they figure, all right, Beyonce has the Beehive. She has a huge following. If we align ourselves with her, then we'll get that following, not understanding that Beyonce is an entertainer and people love her music. They love her entertainment. She works really hard. She's made amazing songs over the decades now. But it doesn't mean that just because you put yourself on the same stage as her, that you're her. And Beyonce can do things that you can't do because she's not a politician. So she can put forward an idea about a thing. She doesn't have to pass it through Congress. She can put forward an idea. She doesn't have to figure out how it's going to actually be implemented, or the second order thinking, as I always talk about. So they want to be these lady bosses. And I saw it with Kamala Harris. I see it with Jasmine Crockett. I see it with a lot of the black female leaders, mostly on the Democratic side, because I do find that the more conservative women, A, they don't align themselves with a lot of celebrities because most celebrities despise them. But B, it tends to be more about the argument, the policy. It tends to be more about having a meaningful conversation or debate about ideas as opposed to trying to be a lady boss.
That is the way that I see this, because as Beyonce says,
If they're not talking about you, then obviously you must not be doing anything. You know what? This is just more slander, more nonsense, more lies.
Don't call her a diva. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett laughing off this scathing new New York Post report that alleges she's rude to her own staff, only in Washington when the cameras are rolling, and more focused on being an influencer than a lawmaker. Let's get reaction from Fox News contributor Kellyanne Conway. So great to see you this morning. So if they're not talking about you, you're not doing anything.
We're talking about her, but she's confusing fame with infamy and popularity with notoriety. These criticisms are coming from, quote, inside the House. They're from her own staff and not a random comment here or there. It seems like a systemic pattern. And to disprove that she doesn't show up at the office, she gave that interview calling the reporter honey. Imagine if we called her honey. Racism, sexism, ageism. To disprove, Charlie, that she does show up to work, she gave the interview from her apartment. And instead of quoting like great world leaders in history, or even the Bible for that matter, she quotes Beyonce and lyrics. So I also wanted to make this point in the context of the current news on gerrymandering in the state of Texas. Last night I interviewed Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I interviewed Attorney General Ken Paxton when I sat in for Sean Hannity. They told us how this is legal, way overdue. Jasmine Crockett is in a congressional district that votes about 76% Democrat. As we all sit here and scratch our heads, who exactly voted for Kamala Harris? 76% of Jasmine Crockett's congressional district is the answer. And her predecessor was a woman named Eddie Bernice Johnson, who sat in that seat for 30 years. So Jasmine Crockett.
And this is part of the problem, especially, dare I say, in Black neighborhoods and in Black congressional districts. They just keep voting in the same people. If you want a Black face, that's cool, right? But don't keep voting in the Maxine Waters, those type of people that just are there and they are symbolic, or they are icons because they are Black faces in that seat, but they're not improving the economic situation. What they're doing is just highlighting racism, sexism, homophobia, the same things to criticize the other party. We need to get some leaders in there that are actually going to say, well, how do we progress? We've been doing the same thing for decades in some cases, and we're getting the same result, which is nothing. How do we get more fathers in the home? How do we make sure that we have stronger family units, stronger values? How do we combat the rap culture and the rap mentality of a lot of people? The ratchet, oh, you know, I'm going to talk crazy and put the big eyelashes on. How do we combat that? How do we get more young people in the workforce doing things that are, to a degree, future-proof from AI? This is what we need our leaders to be doing, not dancing on TikTok, because AOC smashed it. Even Obama, they smashed it because they did it in a way that was authentic to them. But when I see and when I hear Jasmine Crockett, again, someone who I don't know, it doesn't come across as authentic. It comes across as performative. And even more importantly, what is she doing for the people in her district? There are other Democrats, if you have to vote Democrat, that probably would do more. There's some that will do less, but hold their feet to the fire. Make sure that the things that they say they're going to do, they're actually doing. Make sure that they're passing legislation that is good for your congressional district, not just trying to always be on, you know, late night shows and getting these viral clips, because the viral clips are not lowering the price of food and gas for you and your family. What's going to do that is good legislation.
Is safe in what she says because she's in a safe seat. And this is exactly the point that everybody is making about gerrymandering. There's no incentive to pass legislation, to talk to anybody on the other side of the aisle, and frankly, to be nice, kind, gentle, and humble vis-a-vis your own staff.
Right.
It's always someone like this who's screaming feminism and equal rights, and we are women, who hear us war, who treat their own female staffers like the help.
It's such an important.
And Kellyanne Conway, she does not get the props that she deserves. Again, take the politics out of it. Just have a consistent, principled worldview. She, I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was the first female ever to successfully lead a presidential political campaign. Now, you may say, well, that resulted in Trump and he's evil. You may say that, but she's accomplished something as a woman that if she had done this on the left, they would have monuments and shrines for her. We need to acknowledge, and if you notice consistently, even the people that I don't agree with politically, like Joy Reid and Jasmine Crockett and Kamala Harris, I give them the credit that is due for getting law degrees, for getting into the Senate, for being a voice on television. So I can do that because that doesn't undermine my argument. That actually supports my argument that you do have these people that have worked hard and achieved particular things, but still all they do is criticize the exact same system that gave them that opportunity. But I also know, as a person with sisters and aunts, I know that there's some really talented, hardworking Black women that I believe would represent us better. So I don't have to agree with the political ideology. Or in the case of Candace Owens, if you hear me talk about Candace Owens, I think she comes across as mean-spirited. I think she too kind of found a lane and keeps leaning into it, which makes her just come across as mean sometimes. Politically, I do align with more of her ideas, but I admire and I respect the fact that she's built a somewhat of a media empire for herself on the back of her brains. No one can accuse her of sleeping her way to the top. I had a conversation with a relative a couple years ago, and we were talking about Candace Owens, who he does not like, and some of the female rappers that have, like Cardi B. And I said, props to Cardi B. She has #1 hits. She's a millionaire. She's, worked hard in the studio. She's talented. I give her props for that. But the underlying stories about, being a stripper and all of those things, I can challenge that because I wouldn't want my daughter. If I actually challenged this family member and said, all right, yes, you don't agree with Candace Owens' political ideas and her political views, but you have a daughter. Which would you prefer? You have a daughter that is Candace Owens, or you have a daughter that is Cardi B? And just emotionally, the person responded, oh, yeah, I'd rather Cardi B because at least she's not a sellout. Like me, I have 2 daughters. I have, two granddaughters. I would rather have a successful granddaughter or daughter that I disagree with her political views, but is married, is raising a family. And from that perspective, she's aligning with my value system, even if it's not my political views, then have someone that, again, is successful. I'd give them credit, but was a stripper and was robbing men, and drugging them. Like, it should be a no-brainer. So again, props, credit, Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, all of them. I can disagree with your worldview, but I do admire and respect the fact that you've accomplished things that I've never accomplished. But you can represent better, and we can find better representatives.
Important point that you make there, that if you had more normal districts, you might get more normal legislators.
Yes, she's not normal. I think she's performative. Look, there is, in this age of get me on TV, I can be on a podcast. People are always they're trying to hit every ball out of the park, and she's always reaching for this alliterative soundbite. If you go back and listen to her speech at the convention last year, people are like, "Wow, a star is born." Where? She's reading from a teleprompter of stuff other people wrote. She's admitting that she's in it for the performance. Quote, "I've arrived and hate is the motivator." I mean, this is folks, let's focus here. Who is this? This is not a gadfly at a bar. This is one of 435 representatives in the U.S. Congress in a country of 335 people. We can do better than this. And by the way, contrast her as one of the most vocal Trump critics now to what she's done in Congress to what President Trump has done in his first 200 days,
Right.
Charlie.
Yep.
And therein lies the difference. She's criticizing him. He's performing. He's making peace
Right.
deals, trade deals, tax deals. We've never seen anything like it. So she is who she is. I guess she'll, when we redistrict her out of that seat, she could be on TV full time.
Yeah. Fundamentally unserious versus fundamentally serious, tackling real issues. And if you want to be Beyonce, you don't want to be one of 535.
Jasmine
See,
Crockett.
this is the thing. And I think that summary is good. If you want to be an entertainer, be an entertainer. If you want to be a legislator, be serious and be a legislator. You can enjoy Beyonce and the culture and all of those things. But when it seems like you'd rather be that than what people have elected you to be and do, that's where I have the problem. If she was being effective in legislating, then it wouldn't be an issue. I may not agree with what she's legislating, but at least I'd say, well, that's what the people voted you in for. Anyway, as I said, props to her for what she's accomplished. We can find better representatives of our culture and as Black women. And hey, I'm not a political analyst. I'm not a congressman or a senator. I'm just a guy with a Wi-Fi signal and a camera. So I could be wrong. Make sure you put your comments in the comments. If there's someone you think that this video would trigger, or maybe they might agree with the things I'm saying, please share. As I say, this is a tiny channel. I do my best to respond to the comments, even the mean ones. And if you've watched this and you found any of it entertaining, please subscribe. I'd appreciate your subscription. I do want to grow the channel. I'm just here to share my view. And I don't want to do it in a mean-spirited or, like horrible way. But sometimes I will disagree with maybe how someone looks or something. I might make fun of that. I try not to. But yeah, I always try to talk about their ideas and their policies rather than talking about them. And make sure you check out some of the other videos about Jasmine Crockett. She is one of my favorite topics at the moment. I have quite a few about Kamala Harris, not about Michelle Obama, even though her podcast doesn't seem to be doing well. Anyway, that's it for me. Make sure you like, make sure you share.